Welcome, everybody. It's Friday, and you're at GateWorld. We're doing another Stargate Hangout today, just like we've been doing every Friday. Thank you for being here. Thanks, folks in the chat. I see you, Ryan. I see RJB Malachor. I see Raj Luthra is in the chat. Lockwatcher's in the chat. Guys, thanks for being here to hang out and talk Stargate today. I'm very excited for a couple of reasons to bring in our guest. One is he's the talented Stargate fan who's responsible for the brand new GateWorld animated intro that you just saw. I'm very excited about it. He's been working on it for a long time. We'll play it again. It's pretty sweet. And also because the main topic today, we get to talk about Stargate's advanced alien species, which is a really fun list. I want to go through and talk about sort of the whole scope of Stargate mythology in the universe and the different alien species, kind of at around Earth's level. Some a little bit less advanced than Earth, like the Janai, but also, of course, the more advanced Tolan, and then the super advanced, like the Ancients. So we're going to get into that list with our special guest, Justin Kelly. Hello, sir.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. Guys, let us know in the chat if the levels sound okay. We're rolling with the usual technical stuff, so hopefully you can hear both of us. Did the intro show for everyone? Hopefully you saw the intro. We'll play it again here in a minute. Justin, you and I met because we put out a call for other Stargate fans to, volunteer. There's new excitement around a new Stargate show being in production, and I love the idea that GateWorld is a place for all Stargate fans to kind of come and use their talents, use their skills, and celebrate the show together. So you and I have been talking and going back and forth on this particular project for a few months now. How are you feeling about how it's all come together?
Yeah. Yeah. When the new Stargate announcement was made, you guys asked for help, and yeah, I was pretty excited to be able to dive in and finally do something to contribute to the community here. So yeah, that was great. And like you said, it's been a few months now, and I'm glad we finally got that out there. It's exciting.
You are an artist. You are a Stargate fan. I want to talk about your fandom in a minute, but
Okay.
folks can check out your YouTube channel as well. I had a chance to go there and look at the Daedalus piece that you did, sort of how this comes to be. And is it right? You're still feeling like you're kind of a newbie when it comes to 3D animation, and you're learning these tools as you kind of work with, in this case, the Daedalus model.
Yeah. So um, I started doing kind of 2D digital art in, I don't know, maybe 2008 or 9. So it's been a while that I started that. And I've always been interested in doing space art. Stargate was obviously a big part of that. And so I kind of did that for a long time. And it wasn't until just last year that I made the switch from doing like Photoshop style art into more 3D and using Unreal Engine and Blender and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, yes, I'm still pretty new when it comes to 3D art and animation. So I'm doing my best, but
Well, I'm
um,
super impressed. As a non-artist, I'm incredibly impressed by
thank you, thank you.
the work that you've done. How are you finding the tools, out of curiosity? Right, there might be some folks watching who might have some experience with Blender or with Unreal. How do these tools handle, particularly as a new artist?
Um, as somebody brand new coming into it, there's definitely a pretty good learning curve. Um, I haven't done a whole lot with Blender yet. I've mostly just stuck with Unreal. Um, I haven't had the most powerful machines out there, so sticking to something like Unreal for me has been nice because it's a real time engine, which kind of lets me work more quickly. And I don't do this full time, so being able to sit down for a couple hours and put something together real quick, it's been so nice using something like Unreal. But it definitely had a steep learning curve. There was lots of YouTube tutorials and whatnot involved in trying to
Sure.
figure all that out. But It's coming along. I think it's just one of those things that the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So I just try to keep doing it.
Well, do you want to look at this intro again and talk more about this project, or you should we
Yeah,
get to know
sure.
you a little bit first? I want to do both. I want to get to know you as a Stargate fan,
All right.
which is yeah. Let's do that before we get in back to everybody's first visit here. Now I'm frozen. There. Now I can see myself. As we do with every first-time visitor here, I want to get to know what Stargate means to you. How did you discover the show? What role has Stargate played in your life?
Oh, wow. So Stargate and I go way back, like I'm sure most people here. Um, Back to when the show was first airing back in the 90s. My dad was actually always a big sci-fi fan. He watched a lot of Star Trek and stuff every night. And when Stargate started, he started watching that when it was first airing. And I remember one night I came downstairs late at night and he was watching The Knox. And so he had that episode going, and I just sat there. I wasn't supposed to be down there. I was still a little younger. So I wasn't supposed to be down there, and I kind of snuck down and I saw it. And I ended up just sitting and watching the whole episode in secret. And after that day, I ended up watching it pretty much every day since. Even to this day, I mean, I'm doing a rewatch of SG-1 right now. So every night I sit and I watch it. And I mean, it's done a lot for me in terms of kind of the trajectory of where I've taken myself. It started with just liking a show, and it's kind of transitioned now into, like I said, back in 2008, starting art, because seeing all the visuals of the ships flying through space and all the planets, that stuff has always fascinated me. And so got into creating space art mainly because of Stargate.
Yeah.
And transitioning that now into the animations and stuff again, even jumping in with you guys was because of Stargate, which has kind of pushed me into doing the animations. So it's kind of affected a lot of what I do with my free time and what I'm hoping to do in the future professionally as well. So
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's my fandom has been largely the same for me, right? It I love watching the show, but then it kind of pushes me to, use things that I'm interested in, explore a hobby. For me, it was right creating a website back in 1999, and it's sort of GateWorld is a hands-on teaching tool for me to figure out web development and CSS and PHP and everything that goes along with that, as well as writing and editing. That's amazing. That's really cool that your fandom has pushed you sort of as an artist, right? It has given you, it sounds like, things that you like to explore with your art.
yeah, it's Stargate obviously is all about visiting new places and telling stories, and for me, diving into that aspect of it with art has just made a lot of sense, and it's kept me occupied for the last 20 years. So it's been fun.
Well, let's see. Do you have a favorite Stargate series? Is there one that you are
If I
more
have to
likely to
pick
go
one,
back to?
yeah, if I got to pick one, it's probably SG-1. Um, I would say mainly just because it's the one that got me into it.
Sure.
I love the characters and the stories and everything from that show. Um, Atlantis, when that one came around, I loved Atlantis, but SGU took me a little while.
Okay.
I've watched it a couple of times now, and I do enjoy it. I think I'm kind of in agreement with probably most people here, where it took me a while to watch it, but once I did, I couldn't believe the way that it ended. Like,
Right.
I'm sure most people were screaming at the screen saying that can't be the end of this. And yeah, I kind of ended up the same way with that show. But yeah, to pick a favorite, definitely, I think would have to be SG-1, just for if nothing else, just the nostalgia side of it.
Favorite SG-1 character?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I feel like I go back and forth. Like as I rewatch it, I notice that like I'll be drawn to different
Yeah,
characters in
that's
this
a sign of
in
a great show,
episodes.
right?
Um, so I mean, probably a lot. I think I get drawn toward Teal'c a lot in some of the episodes. But outside of that, I think Daniel is probably the most relatable for me.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely have favorites, but man, depending on where I'm at in life and what episode I'm watching, it can
Yes.
shift and move around, which again
Yeah,
I think is a sign of a
exactly.
good show. Favorite episode or a couple of episodes from SG-1?
Ooh, so obviously the Knox, like I said, that one got me into it. That's still one
That
of
was
my favorites
your
today.
gateway, yeah.
Um, I think I love watching Heroes. Heroes was fantastic.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and those two were big ones. Lost. I mean, obviously the big epic episodes are great. Um, but if I'm going with just a standalone kind of single episode, I think I'm gonna go with the Knox.
yeah, that's classic. Good pick. How about Atlantis? Which of these characters and episodes sort of sticks with you all these years later?
Oh man. So I think overall, from start to finish, my favorite character is McKay in Atlantis. Um, his character, I think, has a pretty big journey of going from the arrogant guy that we meet in SG-1 all the way
Right.
through um, the end of Atlantis, where I feel like they kind of did a great job of making everyone love him. Um, so for me, McKay is my favorite in that show, followed pretty closely by Ronan. But favorite episodes, I love the Satita episode. That one's nuts.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm struggling to remember the name of it here, but um, it's toward the end of the series when McKay has the parasite
Oh,
in
the
his brain, and they
shrine.
take him to
Yeah.
the shrine. Yeah, the shrine. There we go.
Yeah, that's easy to
That
remember because
one,
it's one of my
yeah,
favorites.
that one's so good.
I think, yeah, that one made the top of my list when Tommy Valentine and I did our top Atlantis episodes a few weeks ago.
Ah,
Shrine is an amazing piece of television.
yes.
And Satita is a Rob Cooper special, written and directed. That's that's a good pick. I kind of think when I ask these questions of other fans, I get thinking about it again myself. And the more and more I watch Stargate and get older, I feel like there's my favorite episodes and then there's my comfort food episodes.
Oh,
Mac and cheese is not my favorite meal, but every once in a while, gotta have it. So I don't know, like for SG-1, my favorite episodes would be like a Lost City, the Fifth Race, but a comfort food episode, something that when I'm not in the middle of a rewatch going through it sequentially, I just want to put an episode on while I'm eating lunch or something. And I just want a favorite standalone. I'll go back to Foothold. I'll go back to Show and Tell with the Ritu. I'll go back to something like Tangent, which introduces Osiris. No, not Tangent. Tangent followed by the Curse. The Tangent is a fantastic
mm.
standalone episode, right? Teal'c and Jack getting lost in space in the Death Glider, and then followed by the Curse, which is the introduction of Osiris. What about you? Any other episodes that jump out as sort of not necessarily
Uh,
making your top 10 list, but a good comfort food when you want to scratch that Stargate itch?
yeah, I do love the curse. That one I do find myself going back to. Um, I'm struggling with names for some reason right now, but was it the tomb? Where
Yeah,
they,
that's a
yeah.
good episode
Um,
with the Russian
and
team in
then
the ziggurat.
yeah, yeah, and then I think probably my biggest go to when I just want a good episode to watch is probably Window of Opportunity.
There you go. Classic. Everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
It's got the heart. It's got the humor. It's got the drama. Guys, how we doing in the chat? Why don't you go ahead and post comments in the chat if you have any questions for Justin or myself. We're going to get into our main topic here in a couple of minutes. Tag me at gateworld.net to make sure that I see your comment or your question. Thank you all. Thank you for being here with us live. This is always a lot of fun to hang out and just talk Stargate at the end of the week. I want to talk more about your art. So do you want to focus specifically on your Stargate stuff and this piece that you did for GateWorld, or do you want to talk more broadly about some of your other work?
I mean, yeah, we can look at the Stargate stuff. There's not a lot of Stargate specific things that I've done. A lot of what I've done is just kind of more space related versus Stargate specifically. Partly because, like I said, I did a lot of 2D things in the past, and um, finding good reference images and whatnot of like the ships and all that for 2D work, not real easy. So I kind of just went more generic on that kind of stuff. But yeah, with the 3D, I've done a couple of Stargate things so far, and I'm actually in the process of working on a couple more at the moment too. So yeah, if you want to take a look, we can do that for sure.
Yeah, let me know if there's something on your YouTube channel that I can go and find and I can pull it up. But in the meantime, I've got this the new GateWorld intro queued up again for us to see. Anybody who was not paying attention when the stream started, I am clearly very excited about this and excited to have it done. I think it's such a cool and beautiful piece of work, and I'm really honored that you did this for GateWorld. Let's look at it again, and then we can kind of break it down. Let's see. I think that's the silent version. Let me try it. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
All right, so it's actually a pretty simple scene, I think. You've got your little nebulous background back there with the planet, which could be Earth, could be somewhere else, who knows? But I liked having the planet there, so I wanted to have the something to kind of go with Gate World as like a physical world rather than um, just the Stargate kind of thing. So I added the planet with the ship flying through, and I decided that I thought it might be interesting if, as we kind of zoom out and the ship flies by, that we end up going sort of backwards through that Stargate,
Uh-huh.
and the gate gets filled in by the world, thus creating the gate world thing. Pretty
A little
pretty
pretty on the
basic,
nose
but
there. Yeah, but it works. It works perfect.
yeah, I thought it was interesting, and
Because our
you know,
previous our other logo, which I'll still continue to use from Eagle SG, also has a Stargate kind of featured
mhm,
dead center, but it has a puddle kawoosh out of it. So I love
yes,
that this one has a world in the Stargate
yeah, and
rather than a
because
puddle
I
for a
had
little
seen,
variety.
yeah, so obviously I've seen that you had the other one that had the puddle and whatnot. So I did want to try and do something different, just to, if you still wanted the puddle, you can use that. But if you want something different, now you have that as well. So I wanted to create something different, and doing the gate world idea felt like something that would work, but is also different enough to give you the option to use whichever you want.
Yeah, now tell us what's going on with Daedalus here.
So Daedalus is basically just flying through the scene here. Uh, Again, that could be Earth behind it, could be another planet that it's out exploring. Um, but here it's just kind of flying away from the planet, and I kind of have the logo just fly right underneath it so that it kind of the ship helps reveal your logo there.
Mm-hmm. And Daedalus was an existing model. Is
It
that right?
was, yes. I could look up who I got it from, but
So
yeah, it's
you're able to. My understanding is that the 3D community shares these assets, and there's a lot of stuff
they
that's
do.
out there for folks to play around with.
Yeah, so that was actually a model that I got from a site called Sketchfab that has it's a big marketplace full of tons of 3D models. So I actually got it from there, and um, I'm sure I've seen other people who do this kind of stuff use that as well. But yeah, that was just a model that I got from there that's already ready to go. So for me, that's great because I'm not a modeling person. I'm not very good at that at the moment. Like I said, I'm still
It's a
new to
different
all the
skill set,
3D
right?
stuff.
It's kind of next level.
Yeah, so it's nice that I was able to go and just get a model of something like the Daedalus that was that detailed and well put together and just animate it through the scene the way I wanted to.
In the chat, let's see. Ryan, RJB Malachor asks, what was the biggest challenge transitioning from a 2D work environment to a 3D one?
Oh, the biggest challenge. So um, it's actually something that I struggled with a bit on this project in particular as well was having to deal with physical lights.
Hmm.
I've done photography and stuff, so I'm a little bit familiar with it, but having to deal with physical lights in 3D and how they can change the brightness, the color, everything of what they're pointing at versus in 2D, whatever you create is just there. If I want something to be brighter, I just make it a little lighter shade of blue. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of thinking that has to go into values and stuff like that in 2D versus 3D.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting was just killer, especially like I said on this intro project. I mean, Darren, you can back me up here that we went back and forth quite a few times because the lighting was causing me issues with changing the colors on the logo, and it was it was driving me nuts.
Where
I
does the
could
light
not
go in
figure out
this?
why it was doing it, and
So,
but finally I figured it out. I got it solved, so
yeah.
there we go. But yeah, that was probably the biggest thing was just figuring out that the physical lighting of things.
So for folks like myself who have not worked in these tools like Unreal and Blender, is it right that you're working with a 3D virtual space and then you're positioning one or more light sources just as you would on a film set?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
where
and
are the
especially like
lights in this shot here? Let's go back. Where are the
um,
lights?
so so in this shot, what I ended up doing is making the logo. Um, I removed all lights from the logo. I made it what's called an unlit texture, and in doing that, it basically makes the whole logo a light in itself. So it's
Hmm.
actually emitting the light that you're seeing, um, which was part of the struggle of getting the colors right. Was I had to match the light levels and everything just right. Um, but other than that, the only main light in there is it's what's called an HDRI, high dynamic range image. It's the whole background that you see, the big sphere of the nebula and everything. That is actually emitting light through the whole scene and lighting up the
Oh,
planet and the
cool.
ship and all of that. So
Interesting. Yeah, and you had to deal with me as a perfectionist who has
hey, it
I've been using
it,
this
it worked
logo
because it
since.
turned out good. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, the
I'm glad
logo's
you I'm
been
glad you got
around
picky on me.
for a good 10 or 15 years, uh, courtesy of our 2D artist Jill Newton's, or did the original logo. So I've been looking at it, of course, on GateWorld and all the stuff that we've been doing for
Mhm.
many years. So yeah, I nagged you a bit about getting it just right, but it
I
looks fantastic. And
Yeah,
then,
I don't blame you there at all. It was a struggle for me as a new 3D artist to figure out how to get those colors and especially that gradient just right. And honestly, with you kind of pushing me through that process to nail it down, I learned a lot of new things. So
good.
I'm grateful. So thanks for pushing.
We'll take it. And then just the light on the planet, thinking about where the star in this hypothetical solar system would be located and how the planet might move around it is another interesting challenge that non artists, non 3D animators, like me, I think would not necessarily think about a whole lot.
Yeah. For something like that scene where we're kind of just sitting on the logo, um, yeah, I just sort of picked a direction and said, I think the sun is over here, so we'll do that. But there are, I don't know if you're able to see it very well in there, but there are like little city lights on the planet too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And as it rotates,
In
the
on the night side.
yeah, the lights will actually turn off as they come into the daylight there as well.
That's
So
cool.
that was another thing that had to kind of work into the animation a little bit.
Yeah, there's cool little details here. If people want to scrutinize it, the inner track on the Stargate is moving, which is maybe my favorite piece of this. Really cool. Ocean Stars in the chat says, Dan Ben 07 made a good point. Maybe all of the Stargates. Okay, now we're getting ideas. This is great. We're generating ideas for future projects. Maybe all the Stargates could be superimposed over each other, and they somehow burst out from each other and get pulled back into the O in GateWorld. I don't know if that's possible in an artistic sense. We kind of pull the camera back and kind of pop through all three Stargates in a row and kind of end on the GateWorld.
Could
I
be
like
an
that.
interesting thing to try. Yeah. Again, that's one of the fun things about working in Unreal is if we want to try it, you can put it in there and it's all real time, so won't take a lot of time to try it.
Well, anything else that you want to look at, Stargate or otherwise, before we move on
Um,
to our main topic?
yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, there's like a short little like 45-second Stargate clip that I put together when the new show was announced. Um, I think it's I think it's the one that you saw when you first came and saw my channel, but
Yeah, let me find it.
yeah, it's yeah, 48 seconds. It's pretty short, but um as soon as I saw you guys put up the announcement for the new Stargate show, I almost immediately jumped into the computer and started putting something
Mm-hmm.
together. I wanted to have something out there that was purely Stargate related, and I was very excited that that announcement had happened. So,
Give me help with the title so I can find this on
oh,
YouTube. I didn't save a
yeah,
link.
it is. So it is called Stargate is Back, a cinematic tribute.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way with GateWorld and the sort of creative outlets that I have. When news like this breaks, I just want to get online and write something, make a video.
Yeah,
That's my outlet.
when you guys got to be part of the official announcement, which was that's wild.
That was
That's so
wild. It was
cool.
wild, but it was very fun. Okay, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna fix my window and we can watch this properly sized. Okay, and we should have audio on this. It's amazing. It's a celebration. It's just welcome back Stargate.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was quick. I think I put the whole thing together in about 2 hours. So, like I said, I just wanted something out there. So,
Wow.
but yeah, that was an exciting day. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful piece. I definitely love it. You got to help me choose my music too. I like the music in that.
Uh,
So this again, you had this Daedalus model that you
mm-hmm.
that you had from the community, and you just I watched this, and then I also watched you posted a kind of behind the scenes making of
I
video
did, yes.
about adding the engine lights and all this, the
Yep.
thruster fire. Really fascinating. So guys, go check out Justin's site is Art of J Kelly on YouTube, and we'll put a link in the description. Chat, how we doing? Ocean Stars says goosebumps. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, right? The way that the tools have caught up. Um, what's the next show going to be able to do? How are they going to be able to benefit from professional grade, multi-million
Yeah, I
dollar
mean,
visual effects budget if fans can
yeah,
produce this
it's gonna be
stuff with
wild.
off-the-shelf tools now?
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. I mean, even with SGU, I feel like their level of CGI was much better than the other two shows, and that was yeah, that was what, coming up close on 10 years? Is that right? Over
Well,
10
let's
years?
see. It was SGU premiered in '09 and
Is it wasn't
went
okay?
off the
So it
air in
was, yeah.
11.
So
So
it's
yeah,
15.
we're coming up on 15 years since the finale. It was May. So May is going to
Yeah.
be the 15th anniversary of Gauntlet, the last episode.
Mm.
Yeah, what they could accomplish with their in-house visual effects team at the time was astounding. It
Yeah.
was just beautiful, beautiful work. Now imagine that you've got the resources of a major global animation studio, VFX studio, and the
Oh yeah.
budget that we're expecting. We don't know the budget, but we're expecting that Amazon MGM is going to make this a top tier prestige streaming show. So it should have a budget.
Yeah, I mean, we love it or hate it. We've all seen what they did with shows like Rings of Power in terms of their visuals, and Amazon's definitely not afraid of throwing money at making a show look incredible. So hopefully with Stargate we get that as well as some great writing.
Yeah, thoughts on the new show? Thoughts on the fact that we're going back to the world that we know and the world that we love. That it's not a reboot. They're not not trashing.
Yeah.
They're not starting over with the existing universe. And the show is going to be created by somebody who worked on Stargate for many, many years at a core moment at the start of Martin Garrow's career.
Mm-hmm.
What are your
Yeah,
hopes
I
for the new
mean,
Stargate?
I'm really excited that they're continuing kind of with the universe that we left it behind there, and not rebooting. But I'm curious where they're gonna go with it, because um, I'm sure it's been talked about before that the Earth has kind of gotten pretty powerful toward the end of that, having all the Asgard knowledge and all
Right.
that, and I'm curious how they're gonna still make this Stargate related and not Star Trek, not just flying around in ships all
Because
the
we have,
time,
yeah,
but
shiny
actually using the
ships
Stargate.
with space weapons and shields and
Yeah.
transporters. Yeah. How do you make a new show that's just not Stargate's take on Star Trek?
Hmm. So we'll see where they go, but I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Okay, are you ready to move into this? This is a really interesting topic that we landed on for this week with Stargate's advanced races. You ready to talk about this?
Let's do it.
Here's what we have, and I broke this by going and looking at your videos. So let me fix and get our tier list. Nope, that's you. I just made you our tier list. There's Justin. Window capture. There it is. Okay. Now we should be good to go. Everybody see that? We have, I picked 40 here. Okay, so let's start with this caveat. We're talking about the advanced races of Stargate. Advanced, we're kind of starting with not quite at Earth's level of technology. So it's advanced, not just relative to us, but relative to most of the galaxy or galaxies. Because in the Milky Way, right, we have a long history of races living under the oppression of the Goa'uld, so they were not allowed to advance technologically. In the Pegasus galaxy, most societies lived under the oppression of the Wraith and Wraith cullings, so they were not allowed to develop very far technologically. So we captured 40 species on here that are more advanced than average. How about that? And instead of just picking our favorite and ranking them as A, B, C, D, S tier, I thought it would be fun to kind of put them relative to one another. Like who is a little bit more advanced, who's a little bit less advanced on this scale. So the scale that I have here is starting with a green, right? Species in Stargate that are a little bit behind Earth, those that are about equivalent to Earth level. And we should specify here, Earth level has got to be, I guess, what would you say? It's when we met that species, right? It's not, Earth ends up, as you said, pretty powerful by the end of
Yeah.
SG-1.
Yeah.
We've got spaceships we got the knowledge of the Asgard, we've got weapons and shields. So Earth level relative to when the team met them, relative to that episode.
Yeah.
And then we'll look for some that are close but a little bit ahead of Earth. Species that we would call super advanced. And then we might get a few who are God tier, right? Any sufficiently advanced technology would appear as magic. So I'm thinking species that are so far ahead of the super advanced level that we just have essentially no explanation for their technological achievements. And guys in the chat, you might be thinking of one or two already. So let's hear your thoughts as Justin and I go through these. I want to hear your thoughts in the chat or questions that you have, and we can kind of hang out and do this here for a bit. Do you want to go in order? I've got these in alphabetical order.
Yeah, why not?
Should we just go through the species as we have them picked here?
Yeah, let's just start at the top.
Okay, so you're going to recognize, of course, Harlan. Harlan is here representing the Alterans. Not the Alterans who became the Ancients. This Alteran is spelled differently. So what do we remember about Harlan's first episode, right? He talked about being the last of his kind. And he was a robot, right? He was an engineered being. And he talked about the fact that the previous guy who died off, I think he said had been gone for something like 11,000 years.
It was a long time, that's for sure.
So
I mean they were able to take a human consciousness and transfer it into a synthetic body, and a synthetic body good enough that SG-1 didn't notice that it wasn't right when they were in there. So yeah, I'm gonna say that was pretty technologically advanced, and obviously we didn't get to see what their culture was like before that, but if all they left behind was something that advanced, then they were definitely ahead of us.
Ahead of us, yeah. They could transfer a consciousness or maybe copy a consciousness, maybe both. Well, I don't think we ever saw the surface of their world, though, right? And under the surface where Harlan lives, where he was, recruiting Robot SG-1 to help him out, this was I don't know. It's kind of a steampunky. There's valves
Yeah.
and levers and right. So they're
Yeah.
ahead of us. I don't know. Would you call them super advanced, or should we just leave them here for now?
I would probably leave them at ahead of Earth just because other than the fact that they were able to copy SG-1 into the synthetic bodies, we don't really know much else about them.
That's true. We never saw much technology other than the robots.
Yeah.
Uh, Guys, you might also spot species from Stargate that are not on this list. Go ahead and shout them out in the chat if you want us to talk about them. But I left off some that are extinct, like the Ataniks who make the armbands in upgrades. They're extinct. We don't know anything about them other than their armbands. We never encountered the species itself. But they would be advanced, right? If they've got armband technology that will make you into effectively a superhero. And then some like the giant aliens from Crystal Skull, right? The big mist aliens that Grandpa's dad, Daniel's grandpa goes to live with at the end of the episode. We know that they are enemies of the GateWorld, and we know that they have some access to this other dimension where they seem to live. We don't know anything else about them. So the giant aliens are not on the list. Okay, next up. Well, this might be an easy one. We have the Ancients, also known as
Yeah.
the Alterans, also known as in this form, the Lantians. This is Moros from Before I Sleep. What do you
Yeah.
think? Where should we
So
put him?
that's another one that kind of comes down to when you want to talk about them, because when they're on Atlantis, I would say super advanced, but then they ascend. So do they become more godlike after that?
Yeah, good question. So, right, much
They're
of the
they're one of
conceit
the tricky
of
ones.
they're tricky. I agree. They're going to be on the line here, because so much of the shows are sort of premised around what they left behind. So we have all this ancient tech
Hmm.
that they left behind that we get into trouble with.
Yeah.
But in present day, yeah, the ancients themselves are ascended.
And I guess if we stick to our initial rule of when the team first met them, it was Oma Desala, right? And she was ascended, shooting lightning bolts at Jaffa, and
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that's a good spot.
Daniel's great line from Maternal Instinct. Bye. Right before the Jaffa gets zapped. Yeah, I like this, right? We've seen a lot of the history of the ancients. We've seen a lot of their, all the way back to when they separated from the Ori, when they left their home galaxy. But as of present day, when SG-1 first encountered them, they are way beyond us. All right, you recognize this handsome fellow who's up next?
Oh yeah, boring.
This is his friend Melon.
Mullum.
Malum. Yeah, this is the Ashen. So the Ashen in 2010 and come back in 2001, right? They help us out of a jam. We
Hmm.
sort of recognize that they're more advanced than us. They help us defeat the Gould in that alternate future. They give us medical technology. They have not mastered gate travel, apparently because they don't have any gate addresses.
Yeah, which I kind of always found interesting that they're able to create these machines that can float through the air, like the harvesters. Um, they've got all these fancy weapons that they can give to us. They show that bio weapon that they use in what was it, 2001,
Yeah, 2001.
and they look extremely advanced, but they can't figure out the Stargate, which we did. So they're another tricky one. Based on their what we see of their tech, I would
Yeah.
probably say that they're maybe super advanced, but we don't really know because we never see their home world.
Yeah, that's true. I want to put him ahead of the Alterans. For now, let's put him at
Yeah.
the top of this column.
All right.
Because I'm kind of feeling that too. Maybe they're at the bottom of super advanced or the top of ahead of Earth. Okay, how about our good buddies the Asgard?
I think the Asgard is probably one of the easiest in just going to super advanced.
Yeah, classic
They
Stargate. They're just,
yeah,
in Jack's words, way smarter than we are.
and they're one of the few races that's around from beginning to end. They're they're in. I'm trying to remember, were they in season 1?
We see Thor's hologram in season 1. But yeah, we
Okay,
don't get a look at the Roswell Greys until season 2.
right. So yeah, so the Thor's hammer, that was season 1, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're around from the beginning to the end. So it's kind of nice that we got such a good insight into who they are and their culture and whatnot. So it's pretty easy to throw them up there.
Yeah, I think this is an easy one. What I love about the way that the Stargate writers handled the Asgard was they were right. They're benevolent. They're more or less on our side. They're allies. Right. A few exceptions like Loki, but they sometimes are the God from the machine, save the day ending, like in Thor's chariot. They show up and rescue
Mm-hmm.
Samaria from Heru'ur.
Yeah.
But then it's not too much longer before we start to see they got problems of their own. They have the replicator threat to deal with, and they're not just going to come and use their advanced technology to save the day every time Earth
Yeah.
needs to ring the Asgard doorbell.
Yeah. And we kind of even get a little bit of both of those aspects of them where they show up out of nowhere to save the day, but it's because they have their own problems and they need us in unnatural selection, and they take us to go do we meet the human replicators.
Mm-hmm. And in the fourth season premiere, right, they show up asking for more help
Mm-hmm.
as the replicators are threatening their homeworld because they would never think of right, modern human weapons using what's the line, using gunpowder to propel fragments of iron and nickel or whatever the line is. So you need someone dumber than you are. I think we can help.
Funny that they sent Sam.
Yeah, we sent our smartest dumb person. Okay, next up is, well, speaking of the replicators, this is the Pegasus
Oh yeah.
replicators. These are the Asurans. So they, all right, it's a technological species, an artificial intelligence that was invented by, generated by, engineered by the ancients in Atlantis long, long ago to fight their war with the Wraith. And they've just grown as a society over the course of 10,000 years.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. That's
Are they
super
super
advanced.
advanced?
They obviously had all the technology that we would expect from the ancients, but they were never able to ascend.
They were never able to ascend. It's a really interesting story with this character, with Nyan. Is it
Mm-hmm.
Nyan or Neum? Nyan's the guy
Neum,
from, Daniel's assistant from Newground.
Newground, yeah.
So with Neum and the others, they were looking for ascension. This was sort of becoming like their creators was their ultimate existential goal. I was
Yeah.
always interested in the fact that the Asurans, as far as we know, in terms of their ships and their city, right? Their city was a duplicate of Atlantis that then had a larger metropolis built around it. But it was a copy of Atlantis. And their
Yeah.
ships, the Asuran warships, were just Aurora class Lantean warships, as far as we know. It's the same model. They didn't change anything. I don't know if they created any different ships. So it's almost like they were, because they wanted to sort of mimic their creators circa 10,000 years ago, it's almost like they were technologically stagnant.
Yeah. Whether it was the desire to mimic the creators, or that was all the knowledge that they were programmed with. they weren't able to come up with anything new on their own. I don't know. But yeah, it was that shot where they are walking through the tunnel through that Atlantis gate room, and then they zoom out and you see that whole sprawling metropolis around
It's
Atlanta.
a great shot.
That was a cool scene.
All right. Next up, a little more obscure. Here's a one episode species.
It's
And it's even more
New Ground.
Yeah, this is new ground. So even more challenging because this actor came back and played somebody from a different species later. But these are the Bedrosians from New Ground. So, right, SG-1 gets captured. They're sort of religious fanatics with some tech. They capture SG-1 and they just won't hear of this idea that their civilization might have been transplanted through the Stargate from another planet, which fits with the mythology of their competing neighbor state that they're at war with.
Yeah, they were definitely, I would say, ahead of Earth. They have energy weapons and their ships with their little energy force fields that they were able to put down. So yeah, I'd probably put them ahead of Earth, but
Yeah, that's right. They've
not
got
quite as high as the other two for sure.
those little ships with come down and drop the force field around the team.
Which am I? I'm sure somebody, you can probably answer, Darren, or somebody in chat, but the weapons that they used, the Bedrosians, did that prop later just become the Wraith Stunner?
I've seen that online. The side-by-side comparison pictures are kind of interesting. I don't know for sure
I've never looked at it.
if the actual Bedrosian staff prop was reused for the Wraith stunners. They're very similar, though. It wouldn't surprise me if it was maybe torn down and rebuilt a little bit.
There's a big difference, they say.
Or if it's just if it's inspired
they,
by.
they look similar, and I've never seen the side by side, so I was curious.
Bitcoin says the ancients were really technologically stagnant. That's true. When we talk about the ancients and their development over time, Atlantis tech was 5 million years prior to the Wraith War, which was 10,000 years ago. Not much advanced. That's a great point. The ancients also hit a point, right? Because they were millions, tens of millions of years old. They traveled the galaxy. They lived in multiple galaxies. They seem to sort of plateau in their technological development. All right, who's up? You might know them as the Nakai, which is the unofficial name given to the blue aliens or the blueberry aliens from Stargate Universe.
They're, I would say, another kind of tricky one because we do get to see a little bit of, obviously they're ahead of Earth because they're flying around in ships.
Yeah, they're spacefaring.
But other than a couple of their ships, we don't really see much of them.
Yeah, what do we know about these guys? Other than their ships, we know that they've apparently been trying to access Destiny, but have not been able to. Haven't been able to penetrate the ship's defenses. We know they've gotten their hands on communication stones and have used those, at least in the course of the show.
They appear to also have some advanced medical tech based on what they do with their prisoners.
Right. What Chloe ends up going through. That's definitely advanced medical tech. And we see their stasis tanks.
Changing her, right?
Yeah. Guys, help us out here. Where do you think the Nakai should go? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just reading the chat. They have the memory thing. They stick that little device on their temple to.
Oh yeah, they've got a little
read
memory,
their thoughts like the Tok'ra have. So,
but it's communication, right? It's like a telepathic.
I think
communicator
that's what
of a sort.
Yeah, because they learned a little bit of our language, right? I think it was just a single message or something that they sent, but I don't think they ever spoke English to us. But they sent like a little Text message to
They
Destiny.
did text Destiny, right? What did it say? Surrender? Something like that. Red
Yeah.
Xeon asks, what season of Earth are we comparing against? So we're flexible here because Earth becomes so powerful by the end of the show's run. We're comparing these species to where Earth was when we met them. It's kind of a rule of thumb. Let's see. Raj
I
Luther
would
says, I think the
probably
Nakai should go in super advanced.
that's what I was just going to say, based on the fact that from who we have under ahead of Earth, I think they're the only spacefaring race.
Okay. Well, let's see. The Ashen do have ships. They have their
I
little
guess, yeah, they, because
confederation of
they, yeah.
planets was joined by
Okay,
ships.
yeah, so yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you're right.
I don't know if they have much in the way of hyperspace travel per se. Suns and Shadows
Yeah, I mean,
Cast
these
says
these
super
guys were able to track
advanced.
Destiny between galaxies, so
Ocean Stars says ahead of Earth or super advanced. This is an interesting question. I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Donghua Clips. Do we think that they would struggle with the Goa'uld?
ooh.
That's an interesting way to approach this.
Yeah, it is, because again, we haven't seen a whole lot of them other than the fact that they struggled with the Destiny. So I don't know. I guess it's hard to compare the Destiny to a Hatak, but I would probably put them. Yeah, they're kind of like the Ashen, I think, where they're either going to be at the front of ahead of Earth or at the maybe at
At
the
the
back of
bottom.
Super
Yeah,
Advanced.
maybe at the bottom of super advanced.
Yeah,
Because,
I
yeah,
would probably
we,
put them ahead of the Ashen for sure because they
I
were
agree.
able to track the Destiny for so long.
Yeah, I agree. We're doing our best because, again, we only know so much about them. That's what makes this exercise fun. Okay. Now we've come to a big one. I saw these guys mentioned in chat earlier, and it's really tough to find a picture to represent what in the Stargate Omnipedia I call the Eden Engineers, also called the Planet Builders, also called the Obelisk race or the Obelisk Builders. So this is a hypothetical species that we know is out there in Stargate universe, but we never saw directly. But we encountered this planet that should not have been there. Based on the data, I think that was received by the seed ship that had passed by some years ahead of Destiny. There was no planet there. And then when Destiny arrived, hey, there's a whole planet with a full ecosystem and this giant obelisk, obviously made by an intelligence. So we're looking at the episodes Faith, and then in season 2, Visitation, when our fallen comrades who got left behind on this planet come back, miraculously resurrected, with a brand new Destiny shuttle that's in mint condition. So we think these guys can make planets.
And stars.
And stars. Is that right? Am I forgetting that part of the...
I, if I'm not mistaken, I think the seed ship went through. They What stopped them was the gravity of the new star that was there,
Not just the
and that
planet.
star had a
Okay.
planet. So I would say out of all the races, they might be the top, because even the ancients,
Yeah.
they never made a planet.
As far as we know, I mean, the ancients are pretty advanced having gone through ascension, but I don't know. I think what makes these guys god tier is that they are still so mysterious. There's so much that
Yeah.
we don't know about them. And what little we do know about them is, yeah, seems to be the power of creation.
Yeah, I mean, they create a planet, a star, I think, and they're able to bring humans back to life.
Yeah, doing their best. Now that's interesting. Doing their best to fix humans who have died, and not doing it quite right, and having the gruesome, horrible fate that those guys suffered in Visitation. Ugh.
Mm-hmm. The ancients ascended all of Abydos. It's true. Actually, that was just one of them was able to do that.
Yeah. Now that's pretty wild. I was thinking about this. I'm working on my video for SG1 season 6 and I have been thinking about the fact that not only did Oma ascend all of the Abydonians like that, but uh Anubis blew up the planet, or at least he blew up the pyramid with the Stargate and the surrounding area, if not the whole planet. And then SG1 at the end of the episode, remember this is the finale of season 6, full circle. They can't get a lock. They're trying to check and see what happened to Abydos. They can't get a lock, and then suddenly they can get a lock. The Stargate connects. They walk through. There's a pyramid and a Stargate there, and they have that final conversation with Skara. That's pretty powerful. That's not just a lightning strike.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, she was ascending all the Abydonians at the same time she was fighting off Daniel.
Yeah, I wonder. She might have been involved in that. Did she tell us later? Did she tell Daniel that she was the one who stopped him from attacking Anubis? It wasn't the
I
others?
think so. I think, well, what was the episode called? Is it Threads? Where they're in the diner?
Yeah,
I feel like she says something about she had to stop him before the others did.
that sounds right. Yeah, I think you're right that it was Oma that stopped him. And if she didn't, the others would have.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's between the ancients and the Eden folks. That's a tough one to say who should be higher.
Yeah, I like this. Let's keep going. Here's Odo. These are the Urondans. Urondans from season 4's The Other Side. Are they at the same level as Earth? Are they, I don't know, some of their tech is more advanced, right? Because they have ships, they have fighter craft, they have
Yeah,
the mental connection for the drone weapon ships that their pilots use.
yeah, they have a little bit higher tech level than we do, I think, because of their arrow fighters and um, the way that they connect to them with just sitting in that chair and thinking about it. Um, I mean, that's stuff that we still don't have now, and so I would say they're ahead of Earth, but probably not as high as Harlan. Yeah, again, it's hard to say because it's hard to say still because we don't. They're one episode. We don't see a whole lot of them. We don't ever really see the surface other than a couple of quick shots from the airplane.
Yeah, sorry guys,
But
I was muted because I was coughing. Yeah, I think they fit here. They're more advanced than the Bedrosians, but probably not at the level of the Alterans. Okay. Sorry, there are no pictures in Stargate of a furling. Not a real furling. We could have used the teddy bears from 200. But if you're wondering what this picture is representing the furlings, this is their technology. This is the furling archway key panel that is seen in the episode Paradise Lost. Furlings were one of the 4 great races. They were part of the alliance with the ancients and the Asgard and the Nox. What do we think? Again, we don't know a whole lot about them.
the only thing that we do know about them is they were one of the 4 races, and we know that device you're got in the picture there can teleport you. That's really about it.
So they were allied.
Um,
Apparently, the other three races thought that they were equals, more or less equals, and they had that archway technology. That's a teleportation technology.
yeah, I mean that alone, I would say, just being part of the four races, I would say probably makes them super advanced, but who knows?
That's how I'm kind of feeling about it. Yeah, they're probably going to be in super advanced. They're more than just a bit ahead of Earth. But yeah, here in the chat, Left Right says Furlings, Asgard, and Nox are super advanced. Matthew Coburn says I could have used a picture of Joseph's pug Sharky. Joe Malazzi's pug Sharky would have made a great stand-in for the Furlings. I love it.
What wiped them out? I don't think that we, other than the people who were at that utopian community, I don't think we know if they're wiped out or not, do we?
No, hey, go check out the Furling video on GateWorld, because we don't know what happened to the Furlings. We know that the utopian colony was wiped out. And they invited a bunch of people to come and live in their colony with them. So we don't even know if those were Furling skeletons that Jack found. I think I kind of like the idea that the Furlings either are from another galaxy or migrated to another galaxy or live in an interdimensional space and just aren't around anymore. But are they more advanced than the blue aliens, the Nakai?
Probably. I don't know. That again, we just know nothing.
Yeah. So now it gets fun because we're speculating and we have to place them relative to other people on the same row.
Yeah.
This will be fun. Okay, so I know I said that I didn't include a lot of extinct species, but I wanted to include the Gadmir because their story is so interesting. This is season 4 Scorched Earth. The Gadmir were extinct, but they were using their technology, their terraformer, to try and not be extinct anymore. To try and seed a new planet with Gadmir life that would evolve over the course of potentially millions of years before they get back to where their civilization was when they went extinct.
Yeah, they I mean, the fact that their automated ship was smart enough to create the android in the image of the Incarans and know the language, um, that's pretty advanced, I think.
Yeah,
I
able to build this ship and send it out into space automated to find a new planet and
yeah,
rebuild their species.
yeah,
That
scan all those worlds over thousands of years and
I don't see the Ashen doing
terraform
that.
and no,
We got another super advanced here.
I think so.
All right, I'm going to put him right there for now. And let's see who in the chat. We know the ancients viewed them as peers, talking about the Furlings. Where did I see? Okay, I missed who said it. There's a Furling. Oh yeah, here. WC. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Next to the Asgard. Just for you, I agree. I think the Furlings should go next to the Asgard because they were peers in the Alliance. I think you put a Furling and a Replicator in a cage match. I'm rooting for the Furling. Okay, now we're getting back a little bit closer to Earth. We've done kind of the top of this pretty heavily, but now we've got some species who are closer to Earth in their technology level. These are the Galerans. This is Season 9's Collateral Damage. These are the guys who had the memory technology that could read your memories, record them. You can share your memories with somebody else, or as we learned in the episode, when Cameron Mitchell gets framed for murder, you can implant false memories in somebody else. What do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
think their level of tech is, from who we've looked at so far, they might be the closest to us. They have the memory technology that we obviously don't have, but outside of that, I don't think we really see anything else that's beyond us in any significant way. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. I don't
No,
know.
the team spent a few days on the planet, and it looked largely kind of, contemporary modern day Earth,
Yeah.
with their facilities and their dress, very Earth-like, but they had this breakthrough technology.
Yeah.
Ballpark,
And
yeah,
it's hard to say again because we don't know if that's like a one off thing or if they have a whole bunch more.
right, right. As far as we know, they don't have ships, though, as
Right.
far as I recall. So I'm happy putting them at Earth level, at least in the ballpark. Okay, the Janai. Chief O'Brien and the Janai. Well, what we know some specifics about where McKay and the team sort of ballpark their technological level.
Yeah. They did make mention that they were a little bit behind us.
They have, so when
And
they're introduced in Underground, correct me if I'm misremembering, uh, they're they sort of have their own Manhattan Project. They're kind of just on the cusp of figuring out
right,
how to make a nuclear weapon. And
right.
Rodney's like, I did one of these as a school project when I was 8 or something like that. So they're what, circa 1940 Earth, maybe?
Yeah, they're close, but they're definitely a few decades behind.
Yeah, a few decades behind, in part because, of course, they've lived under the shadow of the Wraith. But what made the
Right.
Janai so interesting, particularly early on, right? This is the first part of season 1. What made the Janai so interesting was that uh, they had kept themselves and their technological advancements hidden from the Wraith, which is the whole premise of, right, they're pretending to be farmers. They're even trading with other people like the Athosians via the Stargate as simple farmers while they have this whole civilization under the ground. So yeah, behind Earth, but just by a few decades. There's, as I was trying to make this list, there's not a lot of species in the Pegasus galaxy on this list. And I think it's in part because, well, the Wraith were ruthlessly efficient in oppressing the whole galaxy. But there's just, right, the writers have to come up with a story conceit, right? A reason why our team would encounter somebody who is more advanced. With SG1, there were plenty of planets where, hey, a Gould used to rule here, but 500 years ago we got rid of him, or he hasn't been back in 1,000 years. The Naquita mines dried up, and the civilization has had a few generations or centuries to advance. With the Wraith oppression in the Pegasus galaxy, there are not very many of those.
Yeah, there's no real resource depletion in the Pegasus other than they're wiped out.
Okay, Ball is here because the Goa'uld are next. They got to be ranked somewhere. They're definitely ahead of us. Would you call the
Yeah,
Goa'uld super advanced, though?
I don't know if we can because we know that the Ashen beat them.
That's true. Logically, from 2010, they would have to be somewhere behind the Ashen. If Ashen technology was enough to take them out. That's a good point. We also know that the Goa'uld are scavengers. Right? Everything that they have,
Yeah,
they've found and stolen and modified.
I was gonna bring up the question kind of along that where do you rate them based on what what they've created, or do you have to drop them down because they didn't create anything?
Yeah. Chat, what do we think? It's an
But
interesting question. By the same measure, I guess you could say Earth is not, I mean, certainly not as advanced as the Asgard. Just because we have Asgard transporters and shields and weapons does not make us as advanced as the Asgard. That's an interesting point.
yeah, I think because the Ashen were able to beat them, obviously we don't see it happen, but they talk about it. Because they were able to defeat them, they've got to be behind the Ashen. So I guess the question also becomes, do the Ashen just stay where they are, or do both of them move to the super advanced, or do we leave everything ahead of Earth?
Yeah, it's a good question. We might have to rebalance some of these tiers as we get closer to the end. I don't know. I kind of want to say that they're neck and neck with the Ashen.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the chat here, Bitcoin says the Gould had hyperdrive ships. We don't know if the Ashen had hyperdrive. Suns and Shadows, Anubis alone might be a little more super advanced. Yeah, because he had the advantage
Mm,
of knowledge of the ancients and being semi-ascended. Anubis alone might be ranked differently. Red
yeah,
Xeon
very
says,
true.
let's be honest though, Ball has god tier charisma.
Can't argue with that.
1,000%.
And if we're
Okay.
going with the Ashen theory here in where this all gets ranked, um, it was the Ashen's technology, but it was most likely Earth's knowledge in using that technology and how to use it that defeated the Gould,
Yeah.
not necessarily the Ashen themselves.
Yeah, if the Gould discovered the Ashen homeworld and just showed up one day with a couple of Hataks in orbit, I don't know how the Ashen would fare.
Yeah, it's another where we don't get to see enough of them. Um, I don't know. I would
Yeah.
probably say for now they're neck and neck.
Okay, I kind of want to do this. Just for the charisma factor. Just because Cliff Simon's so handsome. How about that?
Yeah, we like Ball more than we like Mullum.
That's right. Okay, chat, keep it up. Yeah, Gould didn't innovate anything, Byron Bodie. That's exactly right. It's hard to call the species technologically advanced when they didn't earn it, right? When they didn't do it themselves. Who's next? This is one of those obscure guys.
Yeah.
Do you remember this episode?
It was a space
This
race.
is Space Race, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is the Hebrideans. And let's do them at the same time because the Hebrideans and the Sarakans, Warwick's people, are an integrated society. They live on Hebridean together, which was part of the subplot of season 7 Space Race.
Yeah, which
So what do we think?
is another interesting one, I think, because the Sarakan I would probably put in the ahead of Earth. I don't know if they were super advanced, but definitely ahead of Earth. But the Hebrideans, I don't know. They at least from what we saw of them in that episode, they look like they just kind of took the Sarakan technology and said, "Okay, we're satisfied. Thank you."
That could be. It could be that the Sarakan kind of brought them along,
Yeah.
technologically speaking. So we see the space race. They have ships. Um, and we see there are, Hebridean pilots that have their own ships as well. But yeah, I don't remember if the episode gives us any of that backstory of the two species coming together and if the Sarakan sort of brought the technology that the Hebrideans didn't have.
They they do talk about how the Sarakin came there and kicked the Gould out and then stayed.
Oh yeah, that's familiar. So this is the reason why the Hebrideans are a humanoid species. Is presumably they were another colony of humans transplanted from Earth as slave labor thousands of years ago. And then the Sarakin came along and liberated them at some point.
Yeah, so I guess the question for everybody is, because they're from the same planet, do we kind of lump them together? Or should they be separated? Because the Sarakin clearly came there and had the ability to defeat the Gould, but
Yeah.
does that automatically make the Hebrideans more advanced too?
Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like as a society that as it exists as SG-1 met them, if they're an integrated society, then they have the same level of technology now. I suppose we don't really know per se, were they liberated 100 years ago? Were they liberated 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, but I suppose at this point, like you said, they're an integrated society. So if you're just looking at the planet as a whole,
Yeah, let's keep
they
them
would
together
be
and
the same.
keep the Sarakin in front here. Are they ahead of Earth? Are they ahead of the Bedrosians, you think? And those little
I would
shuttles.
say, yeah, I would say they are, because they were able to beat the Gould.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the Urondans. Are they ahead
Hmm.
of them?
Probably, probably.
I
It's
could
hard
see
to
that. Based on
say,
what we
but
know, I could see that.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah, Ocean Stars says ahead of Earth. Uh, Byron Bodie, they saved them from the Gould. Chesney 45, they had vehicles so they could race in space. Earth was just building their first space vehicles. Very true. Raj Luthra says the Hebrideans are both the humans and the Sarakan cultures together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I like this. I like this placement. Here's Jonas. Jonas, we first met you as a Colonan. That's not the name of the planet, though. That was just his nation state. And the three nations eventually decided to call themselves the Langarans. So where are the Langarans at technologically?
I would say probably behind Earth. They're kind of similar to the Janai in the fact that they were working on sort of their own Manhattan project. Little different, but same idea.
Yeah, with Nequadria.
Hmm.
And I
But
think
other than that, they were still behind us by a little bit.
the production design, we see some establishing shots of some of their cities, kind of,
Right.
red brick cities. I think
Hmm.
they were meant to be sort of circa mid 20th century Earth. So that would put them maybe a little bit ahead of the Janai.
Yeah, just because they don't have to live underground.
Yeah.
Why not?
Suns and Shadows cast asks, how about Eris Box race? They had that natural resistance to the Goa'uld. We see some of the tech that Eris Bach was using. His suit that was made him impervious to zap blasts, that kind of stuff. His weapon, obviously. If we assume that that's the level of technology that his planet is at, they're not on my list. But I'm curious, Justin. What do you think? Where would you put Eris Bach's race?
I'd probably put them ahead of Earth, just because we see him single-handedly deal with SG-1 pretty well. Um, but I think in that episode he talks about how his race is dead, right?
I don't know if they were dead, but they were definitely under the oppression of the Gould, right? So he had to drink the stuff, the Roshna or whatever it was called,
Right.
in order
Okay.
to live. And I think it's because the Gould did something to them.
That's right. Yeah, I couldn't remember if they wiped him out or yeah, they drugged him.
Yeah, Jeff, you've watched this episode more recently than I have, so help us out. But I would think I would put them ahead of Earth for sure, but probably towards the bottom of this list. I guess just because we don't know much about them other than that one encounter with Eris Bach.
I always thought it would have been nice to see that character again too.
Yeah, it would have been fun if they had
'Cause
found
that was a cool
a good
episode,
story to
and
bring him back.
yeah.
Okay, Martin's race. Martin himself lives on Earth. He's very much at Earth's level, but you'll remember that he came from a planet with a big honking spaceship. And they
Yeah,
were at war with
that was a cool
somebody,
looking ship too.
and they fled and they hid out on Earth and set their ship on a pre-programmed come back and pick us up later. So yeah, I'm kind of judging it based on that giant ship that they had. And that giant ship was at war with somebody that apparently they lost to. So where does
Yeah,
that put them?
they never actually talk about if it was the Gould. No, they did, didn't they?
Was it the Gould?
I
I was
think
wondering.
I think they mentioned it in I can't remember the name. The second episode that we see them, where you actually see the ship.
Yeah, in Wormhole Extreme.
Where yeah. I think they talk about that it was the Gould, but it's
That might be
been a
right.
while since I
Yeah,
watched
it's
it,
been a
so
while.
I'm having a hard time. But they're definitely ahead of Earth. Probably right there, like ahead of the Urondans,
Maybe
but
behind
not
the
ahead of the
Hebrideans.
Sarakans since they lost.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I wonder what a big Hebridean warship might look like. Because we saw all the cool little spaceships in Space Race, but I don't think we ever saw anything of their military technology.
Oh.
Okay, the Foothold aliens, the mimetic aliens, who have the unofficial nickname of the Stragoth.
I'm gonna probably put them up near the blue aliens.
Okay, you think they're maybe super
That's
advanced?
what I would say, because again, they're another one that we really don't know anything about, but
Yeah, let's see. What do we know about these guys?
they're able to copy people, but we don't know where they come from because they had to use the Stargate. So, do they have ships? Are they from another galaxy? Like I
Yeah, the episode's
don't
kind of
really.
ambiguous. There's a
Yeah,
mention of the Goa'uld as the dominant parasitical species of this galaxy, which implies they might be from a different galaxy. But as you said, as far as we know, they don't have ships. They're sort of behind the eight ball, doing the best they can, traveling by
yeah,
Stargate from, I guess, probably from one planet to another. You figure they've tried this trick with their mimetic technology on more than one planet. So they're out there, but they're kind of stuck using the Stargate to try and find, I guess, a new home for their people.
yeah. I don't know. They said ahead of Earth there. Yeah, because I guess maybe it's ahead of Earth because their tech is kind of similar to Harlan's, where they're able to copy somebody, and it's a little different because they're not just making a duplicate, but we do know that they're looking for a new home world, which kind of implies that they lost the original one to something, war or
Yeah, they seem to be struggling, right? I like that comparison with Harlan's technology, his ability to copy a conscious mind, because they seem to have tech, but
yeah.
it hasn't gotten them very far so far. Going back to the chat here, let's see. It just scrolled past what I was going to read. Eris Bach. Martin's race knew about Teal'c's symbiote, Bitcoin says. Matthew Coburn, now to wonder how his race ended up after we defeated the Gould. Yeah, Eris box race. I wonder if they're still out there and kicking now that the System Lords are no longer running the Milky Way. Sheze
Suppose as long as
45.
they know how to make the Roshna.
Yeah, as long as you can figure out a way to. That was the loose thread, right? From the end of Dead Man's Switch, is he gave Sam a vial. In theory, we take it back to Earth, and we might be able to figure out how to reproduce it, so that they're no longer answerable only to the Gould. Sheze 45, they had some sort of the foothold aliens had some sort of hive connection with each other. Yeah, and with these guys, I wonder how much of their tech is biological. And
That's a
their
good question.
technology, right? The duplicating machine is very kind of organic looking.
Yeah, it's got all the big tendrils coming off of it, and yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that.
All right, back to Stargate Universe. Yaozu is here representing the Novans. This is kind of an interesting, kind of special case storyline, right? The Novans are us. The Novans are the descendants of Destiny's crew. Destiny's crew gets, blipped back 2,000 years. So we have the technology level that they were at, right? With whatever they have, the shirts on their backs. And then 2,000 years to grow a society from there. And we see at the end of Epilogue that they eventually reached ships, right? They became spacefaring. They built their own ships. What do we think about the Novans?
At the point where they have the ships, obviously they're ahead of Earth, I would think, maybe. But don't we also see them after they went through like some kind of cataclysm and they were kind of pushed way back technologically?
Yeah, presumably there was a need to start over because there was some sort of apocalypse that took out their home
Yeah.
planet, and they had established colonies, multiple colonies, and I think they had evacuated their planet and were presumably going to one or more of those colonies, where you kind of have to start over.
Yeah, so I think we kind of get to see two different versions of them where they could be ahead of Earth, but also behind Earth potentially.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there were definitely talks in the SGU writers' room about bringing them back for season 3 in some form, because you're right, they're more advanced than Earth, but they had just been knocked back. So how long does it take them to get to the point where they are sort of back to the level that they were at on Novus? Okay, so they're going to go here. Where do they go? Let's say at their pinnacle. Let's say at their peak when we saw the big city that had developed on Novus.
Probably, I would say probably right there, right ahead of Harlan.
Ahead of Harlan, okay.
Because we know that they're able to get in their ships and leave their planet.
Yeah.
But we don't know if
That's true.
Harlan's race could do that.
Yeah, we don't know. There's no indication that the Alterans built ships and flew away. They just built robots and went underground. Okay, we've made it to the Nox.
My favorite.
Super advanced.
Yes, definitely.
We get the
advanced.
big floating city in the clouds. They have their own cloud city. So where do they go on this list? Do they belong up here with the Asgard and the Furlings?
Yeah, I would put them up there. The whole, the 4 races kind of up there toward the top. Not knowing the Furlings, I don't know if the Nox would be ahead of them or not. But
yeah, let's give them bonus points for the fact that they're still around and they have a big flying city. That's more than we know about the Furlings.
There you go. Right.
That's good. Yeah, different kind of advance too, because they're not running around with ray guns or flying in ships.
Yeah, they have technology, but they don't they don't want to use it.
That seems to be the case, at least in a lot of respects. Although I've seen the
Right.
theory floated that maybe it was just Anteu's family that wanted to kind of live in the woods,
Yeah,
live
I
life
suppose that could be.
deliberately, and that that city's populated by a bunch of people who are presumably not living in the woods unless their buildings are full of trees and branches.
Yeah. There's also the question of, were they, which I don't think it affects the list at all, but were they technologically advanced or biologically advanced?
Mm.
A lot of their abilities that we see almost look more like mental abilities than technology.
Yeah,
Because
I like that.
we see them just kind of wave their hand and the city appears and disappears. So I don't know if that's a mental thing
Yeah.
or
Shazy45 says they can open the gate with a wave of their hand. We see Laia do that.
hmm
Uh, they can disappear bullets, right? They made the Tolan refugees disappear. Uh, it's almost like a mental power of some kind. Whereas we saw the Asgard do that. We saw the Asgard open the gate without having to dial it, but Thor seemed to have a device in his hand, like a little Asgard stone that he used to make the gate
yeah.
connect. Yeah, Hannah HK says they're just pacifists, not Luddites. Which I think is probably true. They're just sort of they're pacifists, they're embracing the simplicity of this way of life, but they're not anti-technology. Okay, are we happy with the Nox in this spot?
I think that's a good one.
This feels right to me, right? Because if you talk about the alliance of four great races, we know that the ancients were millions of years older than the other three.
hmm
So having them all clustered here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that feels right.
And not knowing really anything about the Furlings, it's hard to put them ahead of any of the other three.
Right, exactly. Nem's race. What fate Amaroka? These are the Owns. So as far as
Ooh.
we know, the Owns were more or less extinct. We don't know if any of them are still out there other than Nem. He's living by himself under the sea, as far as we know. And we saw his technology in the form of what? He used his little hand guy to knock out SG-1 and kind of scan their memories and figured out that Daniel knew more than the others. So he let the rest of the team go, implanted false memories that Daniel died. And then he had his brain scanner that he used on Daniel.
Yeah, so it's interesting because from what we see in the episode technologically, they're very similar to um, the guys there from season 9 who alter Colonel Mitchell's memories, but I don't know, they just feel more advanced to me.
Yeah, they're
But
definitely much
I
older.
can't give you a concrete reason why I feel that, but they feel more advanced. But I guess part like that guy had been alive since Babylon, so I don't I don't know if it's technology that keeps them living that long or if it's just
Yeah.
a biological fact of their race.
Yeah, I could buy it if you told me that the Owns are incredibly long-lived, and because they've been around so long, they're also kind of technologically stagnant. Or maybe it's just because they decided to fight the Gould, and the Gould came very close to exterminating them, that they haven't had any technological developments in the last 5,000 years. That sounds plausible to me too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're one of those that has a lot of good theories around them, but it's hard to really nail anything down. So we just don't see enough of them.
Yeah, they're definitely ahead of us. Are they ahead of the Bedrosians or the Urondans? Based on what little we know. Chat, what do you think? Byron Bodie, no Tolan because they're extinct. No, we'll get to the Tolan. SG1 met them while they were still alive. Daniel Kolskar, future Cassandra, also opened the gate in 1969 like that. Yeah, she had a little wrist device that she could dial up that presumably we got from somewhere over the course of the decades of the Stargate program by the time they get to her future.
I also remember wondering with the what were they called? The Owns? Is that who?
Yeah, the Owns.
They are there. He had the little thing in his palm, and I remember wondering if that race's interaction with the Goulds is what led the Gould to creating the hand device, the ribbon device thing that they would wear, because they both have that little crystal type thing on their palm. So I
seems to be
don't know if those two were connected in some way.
Similar crystal technology. Yeah, that's an interesting connection. Shaze 45, Amaroka helped the Tari fight the Goa'uld, and that made the difference for the Tari being able to advance technologically compared to other enslaved races. She was part of a resistance movement on Earth. Okay, I'm going to leave him here at the end of the line for now, unless somebody's got a genius idea or argument. You remember these guys from Atlantis? These are the Olesians. This is from the season 2 episode Condemned. And they're one of the few human races from the Pegasus galaxy that are on this list. Sorry, I should actually show you. One of the few that are on this list because they had made a deal with the Wraith. That's how they got out from the complete total oppression of Wraith culling, was they put their Stargate on a prison island and made a deal with the Wraith. Come feed on our prisoners as much as you'd like. So they were allowed some level of development culturally. They weren't all peasant farmers.
We do see them with some pretty interesting ships, but I don't think that they had reached the level where they were able to or allowed to leave their planet.
That sounds right. Did they have ships?
They had the ship that came to the island to I think they came and rescued.
Yeah, kind of rescued.
Yeah.
Shepard's team.
Mm-hmm. But it kind of just came and blew a bunch of air.
Yeah.
So they had ships, but they didn't really go anywhere.
They seem to be, again, ballpark. Plus or minus, they seem to be Earth's level of technology.
What we see of them in their city and their security forces and what we do get to see there, their architecture, their weapons, everything other than that one ship looks pretty similar to what we had.
Yeah, looks pretty familiar. And that was what was interesting about the episode, right? Was we'd seen so many different peoples who were, medieval or earlier level of technology because the Wraith had kept them there. And suddenly we found these guys who were, kind of like us in their development. Gray Sky 151 says they were basically as advanced as humans are today, but with one caveat, that they don't have any crime on their planet, so it's very peaceful, so they were able to advance a lot faster. Yeah, more or less. And of course, the twist in the episode is they didn't have crime because they took anybody and everybody that looked at them crosswise and put them on this prison island for the Wraith to feed on. Okay, here is Marin. These are the Orbanians from season 3. This
Yeah,
is where
so
we got
there
Naquita reactor technology.
it is, yeah. Um, they were an interesting one because they started out, I think, pretty close to our level. And I think in the episode they had talked about how in a couple decades they had advanced so far to where they were ahead of us at that point because they had Naquita reactor technology and whatnot. But going with those nanites, they weren't going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, they're putting nanites in the brains of your kids and then harvesting them to sort of
A
make
little brutal.
everybody learn a lot really fast. It's exactly what we're talking about with levels of technology for races that were once oppressed by the Goa'uld. This is an
Hmm.
artificial way of rapidly advancing a civilization. They had gotten rid of the Goa'uld. They had been sort of left alone for a long time. But once they developed nanite technology, it was presumably they developed very fast from that point on.
Yeah. So if we're just looking at that episode in particular to base this off of,
Yeah, what do you
maybe
think?
the very bottom of Ahead of Earth or the top of Earth level, because they had nanites, which we didn't,
Yeah,
and they had the Naquita reactors, but we had the ability to build Naquita reactors. We just hadn't cracked the code yet. So I think we were we had the ability to do that without them. So I don't know.
yeah,
I would I would go with, like you've got there, the top of Earth level, but if anybody else has a reason why
yeah,
to change it, I'd like to hear because they're an interesting one to me.
for sure. What do you guys think about the Urbanians? Our list of ahead of Earth is getting really long. So maybe
Yeah.
our ballpark of Earth level needs to be, yeah, plus or minus a generation or so. Okay, I like her there. And now we have the Ori. Another
The
interesting kind of
Ori,
case, right? Use case scenario here because, like the ancients, they are very, very old, developed technology, went a different path, and learned to ascend. So these are the
yeah.
evil ascended beings.
And when we meet them, they are all ascended.
That's right. We don't know any other Ori, do we? They're just the ascended beings, and all the people that we meet in season 9 are their human followers that they've presumably created to worship them.
Yeah. The only, or I suppose the closest that we get to actually meeting an Ori would be Adria. But if we're just looking at the Ori, they're probably going to have to go in God tier just because they're
Just because
ascended.
they're ascended, yeah, and super powered. I don't know. They're
But
god
they,
tier in that sense, but they also, hey, we found Merlin's weapon and actually wiped them out.
true. And they wouldn't come here on their own because they were afraid of the ancients.
Hmm. Okay, guys, help us out in the chat. We're a little stuck here. Do they go at the top of super advanced or next to the ancients in god tier? Let's see what people are saying. Suns and Shadows, Ori, god tier. Sorry. They were
Yeah,
ascended. Raj says Ori are top tier.
I think is that Shez. I think that's a good one right there. They feed on the life force of humans. I think that says a lot about which tier they should go
Yeah,
in.
it's unsettling, but it's hard to just call them very advanced.
Yeah, God tier at the bottom.
Ocean Stars says godlike points taken off for being evil. That's it. That's exactly where I am. You're going to be god tier, but you're going to be at the very bottom because you're evil. Uh, Hannah HK, there are no gods. They're all fallible. God tier. Byron Bodie. Their tech isn't much better than the Asgard. Sputtlebutt, bottom of God tier. Yep. God tier bottom. Yep. Okay. Well, hey, we're all on the same page. I kind of
Devil tier.
resist it, right? It feels wrong to put them in God tier,
Yeah.
but that was the conceit of the Ori, was they were evil like the Goa'uld. They were oppressive and manipulative like the Goa'uld, but as ascended beings, they were advanced. They were super
hmm
powerful. All
I
right.
mean, you'd have to assume that as ascended beings, they had the same powers as the ancients. They just used them differently.
Yeah. I assume so, as ancient beings, right? The conceit is that once you ascend, you sort of have immediate access to the knowledge of the universe, in a sense. Right? I imagine there's still room to learn and grow as an ascended being, but yeah, you kind of learn how to throw lightning bolts right off the bat. Okay, this is SG1 Season 6, Episode Cure. The Pangarans developed Tritonin, and they did it from ground Gould.
Yummy.
Mm.
I would probably go with Behind Earth.
Okay, say more.
Um, they obviously were smart enough to come up with Tritonin, but um, outside of having a Gould queen, most of what we see from them does look very 1930s.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get as well from the production design, from the locations where they shot. Was it feels kind of,
hmm
yeah, first half of the 20th century level of technology, and then because they had a Gould queen, or in this case a Tok'rik queen, captive, and they had the ability to study and experiment on her and her offspring over the course of decades, they figured out this one thing. Are they ahead of the Colonins, though? The Lengarans?
Oh, that's a good question.
Lengarans have, yeah,
I'm
sort of nuclear level bomb program with their
yeah.
Nequadria program.
I would probably say Jonas is a little bit ahead because we do see that they create that giant drill to go down into the
That's
planet.
true, yeah.
So
The big excavator,
that's a pretty big technological feat there.
for sure. Shizi 45, Tritonin could be the equivalent to Earth's penicillin. That's a good comparison. So yeah, we're talking mid 20th century. All right, The People of the Link. This is season 7's revisions.
Ooh, I just watched that one
Did
last
you
night,
see that one?
actually.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's fresh. Tell us about
Yeah.
the tech that these guys have.
So that's an interesting episode for me, especially watching it today, because um, I can see a very near future for us in reality here where we could have something like the link, with
It
the
seems
way
kind of
AI is
prescient, yeah.
progressing and guys like Elon Musk trying to put chips in people's heads. um, you can kind of see something where a little device like that could potentially be in our future, and if it was, would the AI turn evil against us like that did? I mean, it was doing it
Yeah,
for a noble purpose,
right. Or
but
the interesting argument is it evil or is it just its programming, which is all the
yeah,
conversations around AI right now.
yeah.
Did the
So
people who programmed the link just program it insufficiently so that it caused the bubble to shrink and caused people to walk out of it to their death so that it could manage the resources of the community?
yeah, and I think the fact that the AI had the ability to manipulate people's memories and make them do things against their will is it's interesting story wise for that, but it's also something that you could look at in the real world today and say, if somehow in the next 10, 15 years, if we get a little device like that, will AI do that to us too?
Yeah,
I don't know.
starts as
So I would,
medical devices that help you, see and hear better.
yeah. So I don't know. I would say um, probably ahead of Earth. I know it's another one for the list there, but they obviously destroyed their world, but they had the ability to create the link. They had the ability to create the the force field and the artificial environment.
That's true. The artificial environment, that says a lot. Yeah, that puts him ahead of the Urbanians here, right? If we sort
Yeah,
of limit our knowledge of Urbanian technology to nanites and Naquita generators,
yeah. But I would
that's
probably still keep them at the bottom of the tier because they had the Stargate but didn't know what to do with it.
yeah. Again, like the Ashen, right? If you don't have valid addresses, if you don't have anything that was left behind by the Gould,
Hmm.
that gate's not going to do you much good. Okay, I like that. I like the people of the link as kind of the cutoff point for the bottom of this tier, the ahead of Earth, because they're pretty close to the Urbanians in my mind. But they survived a cataclysm. At least a few of them did.
Yeah, and we only get to see the technology that was left behind 400 years after their cataclysm happened, and it was still ahead of Earth.
That's true. They've been in there for a while, and presumably, uh,
Hmm.
again, kind of technologically, culturally stagnant inside the bubble. At least
Yeah.
I would guess so. Okay, here is the Ritu. This one's tough. The Ritu are tough because we don't know a whole lot about them. We know a little bit about their social hierarchy. There's leaders, there's this rebel faction. They exist out of phase. That's not technology. They just exist out of phase. That's why they're invisible. But what do we know about their tech?
They were able to create a human. We do know that.
That's true. They got a hold of some human DNA and made their own in young
Yeah.
Charlie.
They can create a human, however poorly, and they've got energy weapons. But outside of that, yeah, we don't really know a whole lot. Um, the only time we really see them sort of in the wild is just a whole bunch of them standing in a big open field. So we don't really know a whole lot about their society, I guess. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about
but
that arm cannon. That's
but they've
that's
got
kind of the
the
main technology that we see.
yeah.
And do we ever know?
So
I mean, I suppose when I first watched this episode, Show and Tell in season 2, I kind of assumed that the arm cannon that they shoot these blasts out of is part of their body. But I guess that's
I
just an
thought the
assumption
same
on my
thing.
part. It could easily just be a piece of technology that they wear mounted on their arm.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Um, so an interesting, at least interesting to me, idea that I had was seeing that it looked like it was part of their arm and they created the human. Were the Ritu almost sort of like maybe a little bit like Borg-like in the fact that they're
Hmm.
biological creatures, but they augment themselves with,
They augment themselves. Interesting.
I mean, we don't know much about them
It's
again,
a cool
so
idea.
it's hard to say, but it was just an idea, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'd
But
hate to think of the Ritu 5-year-old who has an arm cannon and needs to
yeah.
learn how to use it because he was born with it.
Um, and the only other thing I think is when we see the rebels make it on base and they're talking about having a small nuclear weapon with them that could
Oh, okay.
destroy. So
Yeah, I forgot about that.
they're they're clearly advanced, but I don't know. Yeah,
I want
maybe.
to put him kind of in the middle here somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, they're so tricky. They could be toward the bottom or they could be toward the top. We just don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of mysterious, kind of like the foothold aliens. But as far as we know, they don't have any great big spaceships like Martin's people.
True.
Okay, let's leave them there. Anybody have a great case to make for why the Ritu should go somewhere else? Put it in the chat. We are moving on. Oh, it's 4:00. Okay, we gotta keep moving. These are the residents. This is the Reginald Barkley episode. This is the gamekeeper in season 2 with Dwight Schultz. They seem to be an advanced society that had stagnated, and they had this VR world that they were living in. Again, to survive an apocalypse. So it's the VR tech.
Yeah, and that's another one where we don't get to see anything really of them besides the chair. And if we were facing an apocalypse and we had to come up with a solution, could we make that? I don't know. But they're they look like they're slightly ahead of us, but
Yeah.
not hugely.
Yeah, a little bit. The VR tech is impressive. It's not something that we could do today, but there's lots going on in VR right now. We're
Yeah.
maybe a few decades away from that. There? Ish?
Yeah. Looks good.
Okay. Ronan is here to representing the Cetidans. So let's say before they were wiped out by the Wraith and scattered across, right? There's survivors who were scattered across the Pegasus galaxy.
So they're an interesting one because we only really see them in that one episode, but they look like they would be around Earth's level, but I think they were behind. Like if you just look at like the way that Ronan was dressed in a lot of that episode and his civilian scenes, it looked more like 1940s type clothing and whatnot. So
yeah,
I don't know
or
if that was
potentially earlier.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was done to try and show that they are behind Earth. But then you see a lot of their weaponry and the way that they were fighting the Wraith on.
I think those are, I'm trying to remember, I think those were energy weapons. Right? Ronan's got that big cannon that he's blasting off in the war flashbacks. I think those were energy-based weapons. I'm not sure though.
Oh,
Yeah,
because they also look a lot like he's got like the 3-barrel shotgun thing that he's using in
that's
that
the thing I'm
episode
thinking
too.
of. Yeah, was it actually a shotgun? Was it propellant?
I think so, but it's hard to tell in some of those. But I'm probably gonna put them behind Earth. I don't know. I mean, Ronan obviously gets his famous pistol that he carries around, which is energy based, but
Yeah.
I think we find out that he gets that from somebody else in the list.
Yep, that's not Satidan. We'll get to those guys. You're exactly right. Gray Sky says 90s Earth level. Byron Bodie says Satita is Earth level. Ocean Stars says Earth. Sputtlebutt behind Earth 50s era. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Dan Ben 07 says no, they don't have energy weapons. So that would definitely put them behind us. Are they ahead of the Langarans? I don't know. When you're trying to survive against the Wraith, I almost want to nudge them down a little bit further.
I mean, they got to stay ahead of the Janai just because I like Ronan better.
Yeah. And they have a whole civilization. They have buildings and hospitals.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave them there. This lovely silver creature. You only see this alien in one shot. Do we remember who this guy is?
Yeah, I won't lie. I had to look to see who that was when you sent me that.
Cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are
So
in
yeah,
Atlantis season
that was
5. The episode is Remnants. And we see this character who's interacting with Woolsey all through the episode as a lovely English woman, and then finally reveals her true form at the end. And it's this remnant of a civilization in this time capsule that was found under the ocean, I think, and it was originally left behind by these guys, the Sakari. So they are, I think they might count as extinct, but again, we encounter them in this direct way through their technology, and they seem pretty advanced. They put
yeah,
this the
they're
all the
they're a fun
hallucinations of
one.
the episode, right? They put in your head. They put Shepard's encounter with Kolya, where he gets his arm chopped off. That's just beamed straight into Shepard's head to distract him.
Hmm. And then McKay, I think, is also getting Zelenka in his head. So this AI is simultaneously controlling the minds of 3 people at the same time. So pretty advanced piece of
Pretty
tech.
pretty advanced, yeah.
I don't know if it would go with the Gadmir or not, because they're kind of in a similar situation, but
Do you think that they
um,
were that advanced before they went
I
extinct
don't know if they
or died
were
off?
quite up there with the Gadmir,
Yeah, they feel ahead of
but
Harlan's robot technology,
yeah,
and maybe ahead
yeah,
of the
I think
Novans. Are we in the right ballpark here?
yeah,
I keep using
yeah,
the
I
word
would probably
ballpark.
say ahead of the Novans.
Okay. And we'll give the Ashen the edge because the Ashen are still alive. They're not extinct yet. Okay, how about the Salish Spirits? Season 2, episode Spirits. They can do this and make you go bye-bye.
Yeah. They're another one kind of like the Nox where it's hard to tell if it's technology or biology
Good point, yeah.
because
They
you
transform,
don't
right?
see you don't see any devices, but they can change their form. They can make people disappear and reappear. Um, but they're definitely, I think, going to be ahead of Earth. But did they? I think they defeated the Gould, correct?
Probably at least kick them off that planet, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think that was one of the early explanations for why we found a planet that was not living under oppression. Interesting. Yeah. Sons and Shadows, early Christina Cox appearance before she returned later as a different character. She's going to come back as a member of the Rogue NID. And then also on Atlantis. She's the head of the all-woman expedition team. Raj Luthor says, ahead of Earth, the aliens from SGA episode Remnants. Yeah, they're ahead of Earth, but how far ahead of Earth? Hannah says they protected that planet from the Gould. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, probably in the middle there somewhere. Around the Sarakans, maybe.
Yeah, they're getting, I mean, for me, they're getting kind of bonus points because of the mystery factor. We don't know if this is just, being able to transform into a wolf or General Hammond is just a biological evolutionary development, like you said, or if it's technology that they've developed. But it sure does seem advanced, whether it's technology or not. All right. Now there's a couple of races. I always have to look up the specific names. So we have the Tigrians, we have the Talthans, and we have what's Matthew Bennett's race called? This is from Icon.
Oh.
These 3 I feel are all fairly close. So maybe we can do them all at once, given the lateness of the hour. The Talthans have a spaceship, right? So this is season 7's lifeboat. All the conscious minds that get downloaded into Daniel's brain. So they have a colony ship where they're transporting people to a new place to live. And SG-1 finds it crashed. So that puts them ahead of
Yeah.
Earth.
Well, they were able to make the ship, but they weren't able to fly it right. So
It didn't get where it was going, so they couldn't be that advanced.
I don't know,
Probably ahead of
maybe
the Bedrosians.
yeah, probably somewhere below Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Spacefaring. We have this mind, right? Conscious transfer technology. They saved their people's conscious minds in a computer system. These guys, though, this is Memento at the end of season 6. We help these guys to find their Stargate after
Yeah,
Prometheus
I'm
has to
gonna
make an
say
emergency landing.
they're probably Earth level.
Yeah, they really seem like it.
Yeah.
They're pretty much us. They just haven't discovered their Stargate yet.
Yeah.
Do you want to put them ahead of the Elysians? I don't think they're ahead of the Galerans.
Yeah, I think right there is good.
Right there. Okay. And Icon, we saw the people from Icon were kind of mid 20th century level. They were having infighting in that season 8 episode. But then when we went back to that planet in season 9 in Ethon, they had accepted technology from the Ori, the followers of the Ori,
Right.
and built that satellite weapon. So where do we pin these guys?
I'm gonna say if we're basing it on where we meet them, I would go with Earth level.
Yeah, because they're kind of artificially advanced by the Ori. The priors give
Yeah,
them
and
that
it's not
tech.
even their whole society really. It's just that one satellite that they build.
Okay,
So
Tenet's
yeah, I
race.
think it's good.
We don't have a name for these. Oh, I think there actually might be a. I don't know if it's a canon or a beta canon name for Nem's, not Nem, Tenet's species. But he's the bumbling, fumbling member of the Lucian Alliance who gets outfoxed all the time in season 9 by SG-1.
Do we actually know anything about their race, or is it just that character?
I think it's this guy and his brother, and they are thugs who work for the Lucian Alliance, and they have weapons, right? They have sidearms, energy weapons. So presumably, again, we're kind of reading between the lines a lot here. Presumably they're spacefaring. Presumably they went out and encountered the big wide galaxy, and these guys have the ability to leave their planet and hook up with the space pirates.
Yeah, they're a tricky one because you only know two people from the whole species. Um, but like you said, the fact that they're able to leave their planet and go join the Lucian Alliance might put them ahead of Earth, but they could have also just used a Stargate or been taken by the Gould.
That's true.
We really don't know. Um, I'd kind of like to say, just from our interactions with that character, that they're behind Earth, but you never know.
Just because Tennant was a bit of a dumbbell.
Yeah, so they're probably at least Earth level, if not a little ahead.
Okay, based on what little we know, let's say they're not the Urbanians. How about that? We're guessing here, folks.
Yeah, there's just basically zero information about those guys.
Yeah, Byron Bodie says spacefaring seems normal to them, which I think is right. He says the Mercs are ahead of Earth. So flying around the galaxy, trading and stealing seems like it's kind of ordinary, run-of-the-mill.
Yeah, I suppose they are kind of similar to like Eris Bach in that way.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. So maybe if they're Earth level, they're at the very top of this.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know if they developed that technology themselves, if they are spacefaring. or if maybe they had a gate address and they went and they met somebody who introduced them to ships. Okay, we have made it to the Tolan. This is High Chancellor Travell. Tolan were
Yes.
introduced in season 1 as more advanced than us. This was the conceit of the introduction of the Tolan to begin with. They are more advanced than us. They were not oppressed by the Goa'uld for thousands upon thousands of years. Daniel speculates, if you don't have the Middle Ages, if you don't have the Dark Ages, then you can be more advanced than we are. They got to be more advanced. Are they super advanced?
I would put them in the super advanced because the only Goa'uld that was able to mess with them was Anubis.
That's true. They were ahead of the Goa'uld until Anubis came around with his knowledge of the ancients and some super duper shields.
So I would probably put them under super advanced.
Wow, Chad is agreeing with you. Tolans are super advanced. Hannah, I'm with you. They did get wiped out. How advanced can they be?
They did build a Stargate too.
They did build a Stargate. I always thought that they had help from the Nox in building their gate, but
That is possible.
going back and rewatching Between Two Fires, there's not actually any indication that that was the case. Between Two Fires, no pretense. When we find the new Tolan homeworld in pretense, there's no indication necessarily that the Nox gave them this gate. So yeah, if they can build a Stargate, they've got Shazy 45, they could walk through walls and bend space. They got some cool tech. So let's put them up here. Let's put them ahead of the Gadmir. They at least lived longer. Are they advanced as the Asurans?
I don't know that they had ancient level technology,
Yeah.
but I think that's a good spot.
Okay. That feels right. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch. Here are the Travelers. Ronan's gun that you mentioned. This is theirs.
Yes. So the Travelers, I think they would go under ahead of Earth and then add another one to the pile there.
Yeah.
They obviously are spacefaring. They know their way around ships and hyperdrives and whatnot, but I don't know how high I would put them because all they have is their ships.
Yeah, this is the interesting conceit about this species, right? Is another way of explaining how a people could advance without being knocked back down every generation by the Wraith is they left their planet and they're nomads. So they kind of have what they have tech-wise in terms of their ships and they're keeping their civilization going, but it's entirely spacefaring for generations, for centuries, I think.
Yeah, and I think they talk a little bit about how their ships are old and kind of falling apart,
Right.
and they kind of make it seem like the fleet's held together with duct tape kind of thing. So they don't have the ability to land and create new ones. So they're kind of stuck with what they were given.
Yeah, until they
So ahead
find
of Earth in
themselves
the
a
fact that
Lantean
they
warship.
have ships.
Yeah, this feels right. I'm debating if they're going to be ahead of the Telthans.
I'm going to say yes because they have
They're both
hyperdrives.
spacefaring. Yeah, they have hyperdrives. They have weapons. I think, don't
Yep.
we see? Yeah, they participate in the Battle of Asuras in Be All My
Yep.
Sins Remembered. So they're a relatively formidable craft. Okay, do we want to put them ahead of Martin's race? Martin's race fought and lost a battle, we think, with the Goa'uld.
Yeah, I think I would just because they they were able to come up with a way to avoid the Wraith.
Okay, let's put them there then. Lockwatcher says, I think they were technologically stagnant due to the lack of available new tech. Yeah, it seems like they had limited resources, and their resources were sort of committed to keeping their civilization alive and their ships running. You don't have a lot of traveler scientists who are developing new technological breakthroughs. But Marco Pallavidino says, no, Martin's race are not scavengers. Are the travelers at the end of the day scavengers?
Yeah, I don't think that the travelers are scavengers, because they they have the ships that they brought with them for their fleet, and they keep repairing them. But I think the only new ship that they talk about adding was the Aurora class ship that they
Right.
stole.
I think that was such a big breakthrough for them, right? Because it was, I think, the
Yeah.
first new ship that they had to add to their fleet in generations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, guys, your mileage may vary. You might want to put Martin's race first. But let's do the Ursini from Stargate Universe. These guys had a rough go of it. The Ursini, boy, you hope there's a colony of Ursini out there still living their best life. Because the Ursini that we met, it
They
sure
got
did
beat
not
up.
end well for them when they ended up against the drone weapons.
Yeah, and they're the ones that did the sort of collision course with the siege ship, right?
Yeah,
To
they
take
took over
out
the
the
siege ship
control.
and yeah, aimed it at the control ship for the drones.
Yeah.
They, I suppose so we know they're spacefaring. We encountered one of their vessels, or we encountered a derelict. I think it was an Ursini vessel, wasn't it? In the Greater Good. Um, and then we found the Ursini themselves on board the siege ship, where they had these little pods and little environmental life preserver pods that had helped them survive there kind of long term.
Yeah, they're tricky because I like them. I just don't know where they would stack up really, because they kind of feel like they had the abilities of the blue aliens in terms of spacefaring, being
Right.
able to catch up to the siege ships and board it. And
Yeah, they got on board.
so I would probably say that they must have been super advanced, but got wiped out by another super advanced.
Yeah, they kind of got dealt a bad hand, and got knocked back by the drone fleet. You kind of wonder. I mean, we never see them in a fight. We never see them, on their own ship with their weapons tech or anything. Kind of wonder, if these guys went up against the System Lords, if they went up against a Hatak that was fully powered, how they would fare.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's difficult when you're taking things from one show to the other when they don't ever meet each other.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about.
What do you guys think? In chat, I could buy the argument that they're ahead of the gold. I hesitate to call them super advanced though. At least based on where they were at and what they were doing when we met them. They were sort of this remnant of a civilization that had been pulverized. I hesitate to call them super advanced.
Yeah, the top of ahead of Earth is probably a good spot.
Raj says Ursini are ahead of Earth. Yeah. Uh, Waj says ahead of the blue aliens from SGU. I mean,
Because
there's a case
they
to be made. I don't know if we know enough, but there's a case to be made. I mean, they got on board the sea chip. I don't know. We never saw the blue aliens fighting the drones, did we?
no.
I think there's an episode in the mid-season two-parter. I think they pop in for Chloe, but I don't think they engage the drones.
No, I think we the only people we see fighting the drones is us and the Orsini.
Yeah. Marco Pallavicino, would they win against the Gould? I think so. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy keeping them above the Gould. Again, because they had
Yeah.
that big ship that we did see in the Greater Good. I gotta presume a ship like that has shields and weapons and hyperdrive, and they're probably holding their own against a lot of these species. They just met their match with the drone weapons.
Yeah, I mean, if you think the drone weapons are kind of almost like a little bit less advanced version of maybe the replicators that the Asgard had
Mm,
to deal with, because you've just got these drone fleets that just keep repairing and coming at you, and they just weren't able to hold out, just like the Asgard struggled with it too.
yeah, that's a good comparison. Well, as Hellcats puts it, saving the best for last. What do we think about the Wraith?
I would put the Wraith in the super advanced
Okay. They're advanced in a different kind
because,
of way, right? Because their technology is
yeah,
all organic.
yeah, and while not maybe not as technically superior, they were able to defeat the ancients.
Yeah, this is something that we get from the more that we learn about the conflict that they had with the ancients. It seems to have lasted for at least a century. And the Wraith were clearly, technologically, they were less advanced than the ancients, but they ultimately won the war because they had greater numbers. They just overwhelmed the ancients. They kept coming. They were relentless. They laid siege to
Hmm.
the city for a very long period of time.
But
Um,
their advantage in numbers was brought about by technology.
that's true. Say more about that. Why are there so many
Um,
Wraith out there? We eventually find
so
out kind of how they
yeah,
how
so we
they
find out that they had the huge lab where they were making all the clones of all the wraiths. So um, the wraith on their own didn't have the overwhelming numbers that we thought in the beginning. It was because they created a technology to push them past that barrier and or just overwhelm the ancients.
yeah, it seemed in that episode, which is what Spoils of War, I think, in season 4 when we see the cloning facility.
Hmm.
It seems that's a great point. It seems technologically based. It seems like if a hive queen by herself is not putting out that many drones without the aid of the technology and the whole facility that they built, right? Because it's not natural per se if it's cloning. It's there's more going on there than just a mommy wraith and a daddy wraith who love each other very much.
Yeah. So yeah, their ships weren't as advanced as the ancients, but they still did use technology to bring them down.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we know their hyperdrive is not as advanced as the
Hmm.
ancients or as advanced as Earth's. So let's see. They're super advanced, aren't they? They've got to be ahead of a lot of these guys. Not sure about the replicators.
Yeah, the replicators kind of take away their advantage in that cloning technology because they're replicators. They kind of do the same thing, but they have the ancient level of tech.
Yeah, they could do
Um,
relentless. The Asurans replicators could do relentless numbers if they wanted to.
hmm.
And the Wraith ultimately helped to defeat the Asurans. They're part of that coalition.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know
What
if
do we think? Yeah, where do these guys go?
do they stay ahead of the Asurans or
I don't know. I suppose it it's kind of a question of do you start the Asurans at the technological level that the Lanteans were at 10,000 years ago when they lost the war and left Earth? They lost the war, but they were technologically more advanced than the Wraith.
I would say we look at it from the point of view of, like we said before, where are they when we meet them? So even if you look at where both of them would be in Rising,
Yeah.
Atlantis episode 1. The Wraith are kind of where they stay through most of the show. But even though we haven't met them, we know that the Asurans are out there. They've got their giant mega city. They're just sitting around. I think the Asurans, because they have the ability to have those huge numbers and they've got ancient tech, I think the Asurans would be on top.
Asurans on top. I
That
could
would
see
be
that.
my opinion, but that's just me.
Yeah, there's a good case to be made both ways here, right? Because we know that the ancients programmed the Asurans with that base code to attack the Wraith, right? They were created as a weapon to fight the Wraith. But for whatever reason, that base code instruction was left turned off, and the ancients abandoned the project of making the replicators. They tried to bomb them out of existence. So for whatever reason, they made them as a weapon to fight the Wraith, and they were not sufficient. So the ancients thought that they couldn't beat the Wraith.
Yeah.
And when McKay
And
goes and turns that code back on, I don't know if you let that play out over the course of years. I don't know if the Asurans could have taken out the Wraith.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting because they turned that code back on, and the Asurans, instead of going after the Wraith, went after humans. So I don't know if that's because they thought it was just an easier way to go, or was it because they didn't actually want to fight the Wraith, but they needed some way to beat them? So take out the food source.
Yeah, exactly. Take out the food source. Mark Pallavadino says the replicators would chew them up. Waj says put the Wraith below the Asurans. Raj Luthra, I always wanted to know, how did the command ships replenish the drone ship? Oh, this is back to SGU. How did command ships replenish the drone ships? Did they have a replicator or 3D printer to make more? That's an interesting question. If eventually you take out enough drones, if they just don't have enough of a fighting force, or if they can replenish drones.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever actually talk about that, or if it was just an assumption that I made that was something that they could do. I don't know.
Lockwatcher says, amazing analysis of the various aliens and their order of destroyitude. Yeah, that's kind of
I like that word.
Yeah, that's a fun way to do this list, is who would beat who in a fight.
Yeah.
Hannah HK, I think the Wraith would beat the Asurans, but the Asurans are technically more advanced. So yeah, kind of a similar situation with the Ancients. More advanced, and they lost the war.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of mixed opinions on this one.
Yeah. Boy, this is a tough way to end it.
The most powerful of all the aliens were the writers. I like that.
Who is that? That's a great comment. That's Lockwatcher.
Lockwatcher.
I love it.
Yeah, if we could just make that overlap, those two.
Yeah.
That would
You
be
know
perfect.
what? The Ancients were more technologically advanced than the Wraith, and they lost. And they're up here, and they still lost. I think it's fair to keep the replicators here and say that they would still lose. If there was an all-out war that lasted for a century between the Wraith and the Asurans, I think it's fair to say that the Asurans are more technologically advanced and might also lose.
Yeah, possible. But they were willing to go down a dirty road to win that fight.
Yeah.
So who knows?
All right, you guys, that's our list. What do you think? Post it in the chat. Post it in the comments if you're watching this video later. Yeah, this is pretty good. There might be a couple changes. Do you want to make any last minute changes? Do you want to adjust any of these up or down? Any that are borderline?
Hmm. I don't know. I think I'm pretty happy with all of them. The only one that's still really a question to me is Tenants race, because I just don't know them.
Yeah. Yeah, until we learn more.
Yeah. I don't know. They would be a fun one to bring back in the new show.
Yeah, as long as they're written well. I think they're a really interesting design. Tenets people.
Mhm.
We're talking about these guys. But they're written as kind of bumbling idiots. It'd be nice to meet one who's like a threat, like a really terrifying warlord.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for doing this with us. This is a lot of fun. Ocean Stars says, please do more analysis and comparisons like this visually. Good. I'm glad that this was fun for you guys to hang out and watch and participate with us. This is it. This is our definitive list. If you want to go and make your own, I'm going to put a link to the tier maker in the video description after the stream is over. You can go and play around with this and drag these around yourself. Otherwise, Justin, my friend, thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope that we'll have a chance to have you back in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for your amazing work with your art and your
anytime.
animations and the logo that you did for GateWorld. We're going to keep using that, as well as Eagle SG's logo. We'll keep them in rotation here and show them off as much as possible on the channel.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing it.
All right, you guys, this has been another long hangout. This was a lot of fun. Here's what we have coming up. Next week, we're going to have a Friday chat. The guest is still to be determined on Friday, March 20th at this time, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. But we are in the process, meanwhile, of trying to hammer down the final details on a conversation with new Stargate series creator Martin Garrow. David and I at Dial the Gate had a chat with Martin, had a nice long live stream with Martin back in December, and he's let us know that he's ready to share a little bit more about how the show is going. So look for this. This is tentative right now, Friday, March 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's what we're aiming at right now. If anything changes, we'll let you know. This one will be co-streamed on both the GateWorld and Dial the Gate YouTube channels. So you can find it either place and you can participate in chat in either or both as we hang out with Martin and pelt him with questions. Now, I don't anticipate that at this stage, Martin is going to pull back the curtain all the way and tell us all about the show and its characters, but we will get some more intel. We'll get more about some of the behind the scenes folks that he's bringing on to the production team. And, we'll ask him questions. We'll try and get stuff out of him. But it's always a huge fun time to do this with David and to have a conversation with Martin. So look for that next Friday. And then it's kind of to be determined whether or not we're going to follow up on that with a second stream and do the normal afternoon hangout, depending on what our potential guest says. So it might be just Martin. It might be 2 streams next week. We'll see if I can stay upright for that long, for that much streaming. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Hey, you could have been anywhere. You could have spent these 2.5+ hours doing something else, but you listened to us chatter on about Stargate instead, and we appreciate it. Big thanks to the moderators. We've had lots of GateWorld's moderators in and out over the course of these couple hours. Raj Luthra, Suns and Shadows, Lockwatcher is here. Red Xeon was here earlier. Apologize if I overlooked anybody else, but you'll see the names in the credits in just a moment. Thank you also to GateWorld's channel members. You guys are amazing. We appreciate all the support month in and month out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks especially to our patrons, and we're going to have fun. Hey, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to take a breath. I've got at least 4 videos at different stages of production right now. I'm working on the SG1 Season 6 recap. I recorded that this week. Some other shorter fun stuff, a replicator lore video, and what else is coming up? We've got all kinds of things coming up, right? I keep lists of categories of videos that I want to make, and I ended up starting on a bunch of them at the same time. So I got to pick one and focus on it so that I can get it out and have something new on the channel for folks to look at. Thank you again for your support for GateWorld. This is so much fun for me to do. Hanging out on a live stream with you guys and with another Stargate fan doing a list like this is so much fun. I appreciate you being here. We will see you next week. Have a good weekend.